Hi guys, what's up? What's going on? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is really fun. This is all about how to find your destiny using astrology. We're going to talk specifically about the North and South Node, and we're going to go through all the different signs that the North and South Node could be in. So depending on where your North and South Node are, which if you know what your North Node is in, you'll know what your South Node is in, since they're always at completely opposite ends of the spectrum in astrology. So for example, if your North Node is in Aries, your South Node is going to be in Libra. Or if your North Node is in Gemini, your South Node will be in Sagittarius, for example. So we're going to walk through all the different North Node signs and talk a little bit about the South Node as well to reveal your destiny and the certain challenges that you are facing in this life and how to overcome them, all different kinds of advices, and revealing what your destiny actually is using this method. And the reason why this is because the North Node represents where your soul is longing to be. It represents the challenges that you're going to face ahead of you and where the trajectory of your soul is going to end up. So you came here this life and your purpose is kind of where your North Node is, with the sign and the house that it's in. In this video, we're going to talk about all the different signs, and then there might be a part 2 if you guys want one where we talk about the specific houses that the North Node can be in as well using astrology. We're also going to go a little bit into the South Node and look at where your South Node is. It's always in the opposite end of the North Node, but the South Node represents where we came from. It can represent our past lives. It can represent our attachments, things that we're addicted to as well, just because our soul is so used to that. It's kind of like what your soul mastered in its last life and who you were in your last life and where you're trajectorying to now. But for the most part, a lot of times the soul, when going through a harder time, can fall back on, its resources. And your resources are where your South Node is, because this is where your soul has mastered itself in the last life. And so normally we can fall back on those skills. It represents where your talents are as well, and the things that you have mastered and your current talents that you're born with this lifetime. So we're going to get into a little bit of that, as well as where your soul is headed. So it's going to be really fun. If you guys do not know about your North Node or your South Node, or the nodes in general, you can actually log on to astro.com and you can go to natal chart. You can type in your natal chart birth information there and then see where the North Node is. So you can look at where this little symbol is on that chart, and once you find it, you can look at the sign that it's in, and that's how you know what sign your North Node is in. If you guys want to know what the nodes actually are, they're mathematical points that actually follow and show where eclipses happen in astrology. So they're mathematically calculated points. They're not actually like a physical object, though there is some speculation of people that believe that the North Node and the South Node are actually like physical, like black, kind of like ominous things, but for the most part they're just calculated things that show where the eclipses happen, all this kind of stuff. When they meet with the sun and the moon with astrology, that's when the eclipses happen, so it's a way of calculating that. So without further ado, if you guys know where your North Node is, you can pause the video if you want, go calculate it. If you don't know, come right back here and then watch, and then I'll have timestamps linked down below if you guys want to skip ahead right to your North and South Node section of the video. So without further ado, let's hop right into this, starting now. All right, so if your North Node is in Aries, your soul is longing to become more like Aries and the qualities of an Aries, and your South Node would be in Libra. And so coming with the South Node in Libra, you are very about like fairness. You're about balance, fairness, equality. You're probably really good at detecting lies in people, because Libra deals with justice. And so you're really good at seeing the justice of situations, though the fallbacks of Libra. So sometimes your soul can have a lot of self-doubt, because Libras can genuinely have some self-doubt, because they're kind of a balance of two different aspects. They're the good and the bad. They see the good and they see the bad. They see reason behind everything, and sometimes that can fall back on a little bit of laziness, because you see both sides of everything and you're kind of always stuck in the middle and not really sure where to go. And so this can be like indecision, things like this. Your soul naturally kind of has this, since it mastered the sign of Libra, and Libra has these qualities. It has great qualities, and then it has its fall qualities. And so the other good things about Libra is they're very good at communicating. They're very good at sensing emotions and thoughts and logic in other people. They're really good at being logical. They're really good at seeing the best outcomes, solving situations, solving problems. They're also really good at relationships and finding balance in relationships. But your soul this lifetime wants to go towards Aries, which is all about the self. It's kind of like the beginning, starting sign. And so this lifetime, your soul wants you to accomplish. Your soul wants you to take action for yourself rather than for other people, because Libra is kind of like, they love to help other people. They're a little bit of a codependent sign, just a little bit. And so you're used to being around other people. That probably your soul has mastered being around other people and being around having relationships and stuff like this. But it's headed now in the direction your soul will be calling you to take on more challenges, to dive head first into things. And so you might get these soul callings of being like, hey, I need to dive into this. I need to jump into this. But Aries is usually, they love to begin things, but sometimes they don't see them all the way through. That's the problem with Aries. So your soul wants to now see things through and also pay attention more to the self and have a bit more of an individualistic life. It doesn't mean you can't have relationships. Since your South Node is in Libra, you'll naturally be inclined to having relationships this lifetime, but your soul wants you to take like a self mission and accomplish things with the self. This is also the challenge of finally listening to the self, because Libra, since it deals with justice and society, is used to always getting other opinions, seeking approval from others, and Aries demands the soul to finally step into its own and trust its own instincts. And so you'll be challenged this lifetime to really become your own person and listen to yourself without always seeking approval of others, and to finally stand out with only your acceptance. And so sometimes this can be about humility, things like that, or like other people leading you in the wrong direction can sometimes be the challenges of North Node and Aries people. So if you notice that sometimes when you listen to the advice of other people, it sometimes leads you in the wrong direction, is because your soul came here to listen to the self. And so your soul is going to send you through lessons until you realize you need to listen to your own voice and be a unique individual yourself. Also, Aries is the sign of being active. And so this lifetime, it would be really good for you to do any sort of sports, any sort of activities that kind of like require the body and movement. So gym, working out, this kind of stuff. This is all about the self, the body, and beginning things, taking action. Anything that's action oriented is very good for North Node in Aries people. Depending on what house it is, can tell you a bit more information if you know about the houses in astrology, but that will be in part 2 of this video. If you guys give this one a thumbs up and you guys want part 2 talking about the houses that it's in. So with all that being said, your natural talents with looking at your South Node being in Libra, Libra deals with beauty. It also deals with justice. It deals with helping other people. So this can be a social worker or an actual judge. It deals with the court systems. It also deals with beauty since it is ruled by Venus. And so this can also be somebody who works in cosmetics, loves fashion. So you might be somebody who really loves fashion, or you really like to find fairness, or you like to solve problems, that kind of thing, or you like to be the mediator when your friends are having like kind of like a argument or whatever. You're the person that really likes to give advice, and you're very good at giving advice. This is your natural talents with South Node being in Libra, since your North Node is in Aries. So that's all for you, our Aries North Node people, and then hopping right into Taurus. So if your North Node is in Taurus, that means your South Node is in Scorpio. So with the South Node being in Scorpio, this means your past life and your current talents from your past and the things that you've mastered deal with kind of like challenging the status quo, or like Scorpio is kind of like the human lie detector. And so it kind of is really similar to the last one with the South Node in Libra, because it deals with the justice system, but then Scorpio is like more of like the detective that really kind of like goes underneath the surface. And so you can really feel other people's emotions. You're probably an empath already. And Scorpio is kind of like the rebel. And so your last life, you are naturally a rebel. And so you might have a bit of those tendencies and qualities in this life where you naturally feel the need to like challenge or like step up. Scorpio is ruled by the planet Mars and also by Pluto, and this kind of deals with the underworld and also some kind of like action and like taking things on. And so you really like to challenge things. You're up for any challenge or confrontation naturally, and you're really good at like dealing with stressful situations. Scorpio also deals with loss, and so it could have been a life where you didn't really have much, because it kind of deals with the bare minimum kind of stuff, but it also deals with inheritances and stuff like this. But so your last life was probably more about loss and then gaining a lot through the loss, because that's kind of what Scorpio deals with, is like losing a bunch but then gaining a bunch from it. And so this life being with North Node in Taurus, this is finally a life of abundance, because Taurus deals with abundance. It's ruled by Venus. So this is finally a time for you to enjoy your life. Your soul wants you to finally enjoy rather than challenge. This is a time to find peace and harmony, and your soul is longing you to leave behind the more rebellistic qualities and to finally step into a harmonious, balanced, peaceful, loving, beautiful kind of life. And it's more of the materialistic kind of life. So usually if you have North Node in Taurus, this is time for you to finally gain a lot financially, gain a lot materially, enjoy the material world, focus on beauty, kind of focus on maybe clothes, fashion, cosmetics, or even like home decorating kind of stuff that deals with the physical world. It can also be building homes, things like this. This is like what Taurus is all about. So your soul is longing to have like a peaceful, harmonious, and relaxing life, because Taurus loves comfort. This is a life of comfort and relaxation and leaving behind like your rebel lifestyle. And so usually when you have the North Node in Taurus, your soul is going to be naturally have like a tendency to rebel sometimes, especially with that South Node, because your soul is kind of used to that life. It's used to having to rebel in order to survive. But finally this life, your soul is like, okay, we can leave that behind. And so you'll notice kind of chaos might begin if you try to rely too much on the rebelistic side that you naturally have. It does bring out some really good talents, because also Scorpio deals with magic. So anything to do with the magical realm you might be really good at, or anything to deal with being kind of like a detective into different things, or standing out, again, confrontation, being able to handle challenges and like crazy obstacles. You're really good at that. You're really good at doing pretty much anything. But finally, it's time for you to have a relaxing life. So you'll notice chaos kind of begins if you try to kind of stir the pot, because this life, your soul's challenging you to not stir the pot and just gain and enjoy and relax this lifetime, and also enjoy the materialistic kind of things that this physical reality has to offer. And so just to wrap up my Taurus North Nodes, this lifetime you're supposed to gain a lot materially, and this is a lifetime where the best jobs that suit a Taurus North Node is anything that fulfills the material world and gains you wealth. Also things that you love, like luxury. It also deals with food, so any like chef sort of things if you guys like cooking. This is also kind of like the sign of being like a homemaker, something like that, or even doing something in fashion and beauty, or something to do with aesthetics. So this is what North Node Taurus usually falls into, but it can be kind of like a wide range of things depending on what house it ends up in and depending on the rest of your astrology. But these are like the general careers that fall in the Taurus North Node life path. So now moving on to Gemini North Node with Sagittarius South Node. So with Gemini North Node, you have Sagittarius as your South Node. And with this being your South Node, you're bringing in the qualities of somebody who used to be a teacher in a past life, or some type of religious like guru or philosopher. And this is somebody who kind of like fought their way to authority to have their voice be heard in their past life. And this is somebody who probably also did a lot of traveling as their past life. So this might be very natural for you to go with change and to also travel here and there. Your soul's already done this and mastered this in a past life. You've mastered being a teacher. You've mastered having to teach others and step into a place of authority where people would listen to what you have to say. And so with this naturally, you might kind of come into this life with a natural kind of keen nature to always like speak your truth to others, whether they're asking for it or not. And so you might be somebody who loves to just say your opinion or say what you know and tell people what you know, whether they've literally asked for it or not. But you might notice the challenges of this lifetime. You might notice the reaction is not quite the same, is because your North Node is in Gemini, which is teaching you to become more of a learner and to take in new things this lifetime, because what you learned in your last life is already done, and now your soul wants you to learn new modalities, new things. Gemini is all about communication and talking to others, yes, but it's more of like the sign that wants to know everything. They love to research things. They love to dive into anything and have like a plethora of knowledge to share with other people. And so this lifetime is for you to finally almost like restart in the beginning and start learning new things and to start doing new things. It is also the sign of communication, so it's working more on your communication skills rather than being very confrontational like a Sagittarius that loves to be heard and just say things very bluntly. This is finally a time for you to become more of a communicator in a better aspect, to find out how to communicate with others in order for it to be received a lot better, and to work on, again, communication skills and learning things very deeply. And so in your past life as a teacher, you might be used to being in a place of authority, but this lifetime is now for you to become a learner, to almost become like a student when you were the teacher in a last life, which can actually be kind of challenging if you think about it, because if you're so used to teaching and then becoming a student, it's like, wait a minute, but I kind of know everything. But Gemini is about expanding and learning even more. And Sagittarius is also like that. They're all honestly like super similar, but also very different if you get down to like the nitty-gritty of it. So now is finally your lifetime to ask why. Whereas before with the Sagittarius, you loved to teach, you loved to tell all the kind of things that you knew, but now it's time to finally challenge that and be like, okay, why do I believe this? Why is this a thing? And researching into it very broadly and very widely. So with your Sagittarius South Node, you are a natural teacher. You are also a natural leader. You are somebody who loves to change up where you live. You're somebody who loves to travel, experience different cultures, different philosophies, which will actually help you with your Gemini North Node, since you're now really working on expanding that knowledge and kind of like starting from the beginning of learning rather than teaching. And also with the Sagittarius South Node, your past life was probably something to deal with a teacher or philosopher or somebody who also traveled a lot. This could be like a traveling monk who was also like a teacher, things like this. This is kind of like your natural past life, and now you're moving into a life where it would be really great to something to do with media, anything to do with communicating with others, even being like a researcher. Gemini also rules short travel, and so this could indicate like having a job where it's more like road trips here and there rather than huge flights to different countries, and it's more of the minute things. And so really looking deep into certain things and asking like the smaller questions that don't get thought of as much. This is also a sign that loves music. Gemini is naturally inclined towards music or doing anything with lyrics, doing anything creative with the voice or anything creative with the mind. This is anything that deals with creation, with speaking, so you could even be like a public speaker or, but not necessarily in a teaching way. This is more of just like saying kind of like, or things that you find out on your own. It's not really like a huge religious thing. It's more of like a new thing, a new thought that you have. This is more of the Gemini kind of stuff. Gemini can also be somebody who is a writer or somebody who is like a rapper, things like that, or a poet, stuff like that. So that's kind of where this lifetime is going towards. Gemini also deals with the other friends that are in your life. It's the twins. It's always finding your counterpart, and that is the Gemini North Node with Sagittarius South Node. So now moving into Cancer North Node, which is the Capricorn South Node. So with your South Node being in Capricorn, so your past life was you were working very hard for your career, for your money. Capricorn loves to they're always very driven. If they have a goal, they know how to make it happen. And so your natural qualities and your talents that you came in with this life is you know how to like get past any challenges or any obstacles in your way. When you have a goal, you know how to attain it. You have such a drive where you will continue on that goal until you have it, until you make it there, until you make it to the finish line. That's what Capricorn is all about. They're the mountain goat that just climbs to the top. No matter how steep that mountain is, no matter what that mountain looks like, they know how to get up there. And so that's what Capricorn is all about. So you come here with these natural skills of that, except it's kind of lacking more in the family department and lacking a bit in the emotional department. Capricorns usually have a tendency to not really be in touch with their emotions. And we're just talking about the sign of Capricorn. Usually in your astrology chart, you'll have so many different aspects. And so if you have, for example, your moon in Cancer, you can be an emotional Capricorn. But for the most part, just the sign of Capricorn is very kind of cold and unemotional, and they're very work driven. They're very like goal driven, and they have certain goals. They're about career, money, gaining a lot this lifetime. They're also ruled by Saturn, so they're very strict with themselves. They have strict rules. They rule the body and the bones that are in the body. And so this is like the stuff that like, it's hard, it's for sure, it's concrete. And so with this, you naturally have these abilities, you naturally have these tendencies, and you might notice that your soul during challenging times likes to fall back into these certain things where you feel your comfort from getting a lot done, being goal-oriented and finding these goals. But with your North Node in Cancer, this is quite the opposite. Your soul this lifetime is yearning towards having a family, doing the family life, having a very comfortable home, really making your home be like a place of like fulfillment, comfort. It's usually the sign where if your North Node is in Cancer, you're almost destined to have kids this lifetime. And this is a kind of wide range of people that are born under this, since the nodes do last for like a couple years in each sign. So if you have North Node in Cancer, you are naturally inclined to making a home for yourself, making a very peaceful environment, a serene serenity, caring, cuddling. Your soul is yearning towards having like a lover and a family and a really close bond towards people in general, and sensing other people's emotions, caring for others. Cancer is the sign of giving so much care and love and like amazing, just like wonderful. If you think about like the home with like the picket fence and like the wife who's like baking bread and with all the children playing around, this is kind of like the vibe of Cancer. And so your soul is leading you towards having this. And so if you find that you're more goal-oriented and more career-oriented, that's kind of going off the path of your soul this lifetime. Your soul wants you to go towards caring, nurturing for other people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to fulfill this by having a family. You can fulfill your North Node destiny in so many different ways, as long as you're caring for other people, as long as you're focusing on the needs of others and the needs of yourself as well. So this is making yourself feel so at home and peaceful and comfortable, and also expanding that to other people and loving them. So your soul's yearning towards that. And so the good jobs and careers that fit around that is basically anything that requires helping people, being a homemaker at home, doing things with your home, decorating homes. It can be anything around the home life or around family or children. And so now moving on to the North Node in Leo, which makes your South Node in Aquarius. So if your South Node is in Aquarius, this means that your last lifetime, you're somebody who completely stood out of the crowd. You're somebody who is very different. Aquarius always stands out. They have a very unique sense about them. They usually have a very unique style as well. There are people that are naturally just like born to stand out. And they're not necessarily like rebels. They're just naturally different than other people. And if you're an Aquarius, you kind of know what I mean. You just stand out in a different way. You're very different than other people. And it's not even a bad thing. It's honestly really a good thing. But sometimes Aquarius feels a bit of a disconnect because they stand out so much. They're a bit different. They're a bit alienated, which is why they deal with aliens and conspiracy theories, stuff like that. Also, with your South Node in Aquarius, you are somebody who also probably relocated a lot. You're somebody who moved around a lot. You're somebody who, again, liked different cultures, and you're probably naturally inclined towards enjoying technology. You're probably very naturally good at technology and figuring it out and figuring out how it works, how to use new things. If you get like a new phone that you've never used before, you're probably naturally just like, okay, I kind of figured out how it worked in 30 seconds. You're naturally a person that is inclined towards knowing these types of things. You probably naturally have a lot of insight about the world, and you're somebody who's completely original and you stand out of the normal crowd. You're somebody who naturally wants their freedom as well. You're somebody who needs that freedom, that wide open space, because in your past life, Aquarius kind of rules wide open spaces. They also rule friendship with others. So you're naturally keen to making friends. People naturally are inclined to like you and want to be around you, with your South Node being in Aquarius. But this is also somebody who's kind of aloof and doesn't really have like the emotional connection. They have like a really good communicative connection to other people, but when it comes to actual like intense emotions between others, it can kind of be sometimes a harder road for South Node in Aquarius, because in your last life it was more about friendships rather than loves and lovers. It's more about friendships in that lifetime. So with your North Node being in Leo, this means that your soul is yearning you towards having that full loving connection with other people, and to also be on the top and not be afraid to say what you want, and also be kind of like really inclined towards enjoying children. Usually Aquariuses, they don't really like being around children very much. I notice with Aquariuses, they like kind of more the adult human connections and human interactions. But with the North Node in Leo, it's time for you to finally really enjoy being around kids and probably have your own kids. It's also a very creative, very active sign. So it's probably time for you to now, instead of being so inclined towards technologies. It's now more inclined towards art and recreation, having fun. It's the sign of like spontaneous enjoyment of activities rather than kind of being alienated and kind of like outside and constantly moving around. Leo is more like a fixed sign. It likes to be kind of in one place, but it also likes the adventure. So they love adventure, but they're more inclined to kind of like build a home and stay in one place and finally have a family, be around children and this kind of things. It's also about you. Leo is like the center. It's in the center of the sun. So it's finally a time for you to have the world kind of almost revolve around you, whereas Aquarius, they're kind of like everything that revolves around that, and you like to help other people. Aquarius loves to help other people. They're kind of like the water bearer, so they help other people in that sort of sense because they have a lot to offer. They have a lot of knowledge to offer, things to gain. They love to help others and see different cultures. They're like the sign of friends. They rule the 11th house of friendships and stuff like that. But Leo is more about the self and about children as well. So Leo starts off kind of self-centered. This is about kind of focusing on you this lifetime, and then also extending that to children and family life afterwards. And so with your South Node being in Aquarius, this means in your past life you were probably some type of guru, somebody who traveled around a lot, maybe somebody who searched into conspiracies, maybe somebody who was into politics at the time. Now with your North Node being in Leo, your soul is yearning you towards having children this lifetime, doing something about the self that's like creative, fun, spontaneous, gets your passions lit up, anything that gets your passions lit, anything that makes you fall in love so deeply where you can give to other people but more in a loving, caring type of way and kind of like show yourself off and show who you really are and still kind of stand out with that Aquarius like standing out quality, but more for the acceptance of other people rather than Aquarius that kind of does it just because. Leo is more about gaining the acceptance of others and really pleasing other people. So it's time for your soul to gain the acceptance of other people as well as probably be around children in your lifetime. And so that's all for you guys. Now moving on to North Node being in Virgo, which makes your South Node in Pisces. So if your South Node is in Pisces, this means you came from more of a mystic life in your past life. This is somebody who was either very religious. This can also be somebody who's very creative, like an artist as well. This is something that deals with like poetry, can also deal with music. It's ruled by Neptune, which also rules kind of like the media as well as anything creative around acting, music, theater, performance, or anything dealing with spirituality and the occult as well, because it also does rule the other side and the mystical world. So your past life was all around that. And then moving into more of the Virgo North Node. With this, you are now challenged to find concrete value behind everything that you know and everything that you're told. Whereas with Pisces is more inclined to be very influenced. If they're told something, they will generally more or less believe it based on their intuition. So if their intuition usually tells them it's correct, that'll be correct for them. Whereas Virgo needs concrete information. So your soul's finally challenging you to find the concrete truth and the more scientific approach to everything. Whereas your soul mastered before, you've mastered intuition. You've mastered the art of emotion and feeling and tapping into other worlds that are beyond our sight. You are a master of that, but if you fall back onto that, you're not helping your soul's evolution this lifetime. You're now challenged to find the concrete value behind everything that you do. And so this lifetime, you're not necessarily meant to be an artist unless there's a very concrete reason behind this, and there's a very concrete value behind what you're doing. So this is more somebody who deals with numbers or somebody who's in the medical field, because Virgo is also the healer. And so if you look at that, working anything in the medical field or healing people emotionally, mentally, physically, but using concrete scientific evidence in order to provide healing for other people or to provide nurturing for other people, taking care of other people, but more in a physical approach rather than a mystical, intuitive based approach. And so naturally you have great creative talents. You naturally have a very strong prominent intuition. And so this lifetime, when you're really confused, you might fall back on intuition, but that is kind of hindering the soul's growth in this lifetime. So anytime you get your intuition and it feels right, research the information behind it, because that is what your soul needs this lifetime. You're going to be inclined to researching and really knowing and having concrete value behind what you know. Also, with your North Node being in Virgo, this lifetime you're meant to be organized. You're meant to be clean. You're meant to like find the small details. Virgo loves looking at small details. They're very good at problem solving because they look at the smaller details and things. Whereas Pisces, they look at such a broad scale. They look at like everything. They're the sign that, like, honestly, you're very good and you have a natural talent for seeing the whole world as a whole. But now it's more of your soul is wanting the more detail oriented, very organized mind type of like vibe going on in your soul. Your soul wants to know the more detailed things and to look very closely, almost with a magnifying glass, at everything that you know, and everything that you are taught this lifetime is to question these things and find truth and find solidity behind everything. And so that's what it is for you guys. And now moving on to the Libra North Node, which is the Aries South Node. So if you have your South Node in Aries, this means you came from a very like driven background, driven past life. Usually your past life did involve war or fighting of some kind when you have your South Node in Aries, since it is the sign of battle and war, and it's ruled by the planet of Mars, which rules all of that kind of stuff. It can also be just a lifetime where you had very action-oriented type of things going on, where you were either some sort of athlete, you did a lot of physical things with the body, you did a lot of quick movements, things like this. That's where Aries comes from. The skills that you naturally get from your South Node in Aries is being very driven. You dive into things very quickly. You have a lot of courage. You see something and you almost enjoy challenges, and you know how to get over obstacles and challenges very easily. You're very competitive as well. Aries South Node is somebody who's naturally very competitive and very good at winning, very good at being first place, always getting what they want. That is the Aries South Node people. You're used to always attaining goals very easily and very quickly because of how courageous and quickly you are to dive into certain things. But with your Libra North Node, your soul is wanting you to move into the direction of looking at things from the outside, being more of an observer, and to understand the duality of this world, to understand both sides. Whereas Aries is more very driven into one direction. Now it's time, oh, it's funny, I'm wearing a One Direction shirt, and we're talking about One Direction. So Aries is the sign of just like, you know, you're moving in that one direction. And Libra wants you to look at both sides. It wants you to move in both directions and observe and see both of what's going on and to really have a broad understanding of this. This is also the sign of fairness and justice. Whereas Aries, it's like all about war. They just dive into it. They want to get their way. Whereas Libra is now challenging you to come and face the truth and being like, okay, I was wrong on this, to finally admit your wrongs and admire your correctness. And also to challenge, maybe there was a better way to do that. Maybe there's this way, maybe there's that way. To really see the duality and compromise between relationships as well. Whereas Aries is more about the self and diving into things and getting their way and getting what they want. Libra is finally about listening to the other person and finding a fair balance between the two, and to focus on relationships as well. It is also the sign of flirtation, stuff like that. So your soul will want you to create good, balanced relationships and harmonious relationships with other people, as well as challenge everything and look at things from the outside, but challenge your way of thinking. It's not necessarily challenging others like you did in your past life with the Aries South Node. This is more about challenging your mind to find the dualistic and the fairness in everything, to see both sides of the story, to see both sides of everything. So that is what your soul wants you to go towards. This is a really good sign to fit into the justice system, to work in courts, to work in politics, to work in relationship building, being a relationship counselor, things like this, to build fairness, anything that builds balance and fairness. It could also be just working, with a spouse and your soul wanting you to realize compromise and fairness. It can also be you just reflecting with yourself and realizing your wrongdoings and realizing how you could have better done these things. And so so anything that fits into this kind of category is where your soul wants you to go towards. And again, depending on what house it is also in, will tell you more information on where your soul destiny wants you to go towards. But being and having the North Node in Libra is all of these qualities, and anything that kind of fits into this category and fulfills these things for your soul will be what your destiny is. And so now moving on to the North Node in Scorpio, which is the South Node in Taurus. So if your South Node is in Taurus, this means in your past life, you gained a lot materially. You loved the material world. You probably gained a lot financially as well, and you're used to being surrounded by a lot of luxurious items. You're probably somebody who had a lot, you gained a lot, you probably didn't even have to work a lot, because usually Taurus is like comfort and ease. So there's somebody who just naturally has a lot materially, and it's usually kind of given to them. They get to enjoy the luxuries of life without having to work super hard for it. And so usually that is all about Taurus. So you're used to the appreciation of material items. You love being surrounded by luxury. You're probably somebody who really enjoys beauty or makeup or fashion or food even. You're probably a foodie, honestly, but you're somebody who naturally can fall into a bit of laziness as well, because Taurus is the bull or the cow, and sometimes it's hard to get them motivated. And so naturally, sometimes when you're in a rut, the bad things about being a master soul in Taurus, this is somebody who can easily fall into laziness quite easily. If they're depressed or anything like that, they just hard to get them motivated. But with your North Node being in Scorpio, this is challenging you to be a risk taker this lifetime, and also challenging you to look deeper into spirituality, to kind of see the things that are behind the veil, because Taurus is very materialistic. You're probably somebody who loves to rely and have concrete materialistic explanations for things and values for things. You're somebody who naturally looks for that with the like an actual physical material representation for something for you to believe it. But the North Node in Scorpio is finally your soul is challenging you to go towards and believe things that might not have a concrete or material reason or value behind it. It's finally challenging you to become more spiritual and trust your intuition. Scorpios are very intuitive, and so your soul wants you to awaken that intuition and follow that intuition. Become more spiritual and really listen to your emotions and your gut instincts when you get presented certain information, or you find certain things out, or you dive more into spirituality. See if it resonates with you intuitively rather than looking for such concrete value behind things. Also with Scorpio, this is a huge risk taker sign. It's time for you to finally also experience a bit of loss as well as like a bit of minimalism. And so usually North Node Scorpio people will go through periods where they end up losing everything and then kind of gaining it all back. Your soul's naturally really good at gaining material things, so naturally you'll be able to gain things back quite easily with that South Node in Taurus. But the soul purpose and the soul lessons with North Node in Scorpio is usually about kind of like being like scraped bare minimum of things and kind of having to go into the darkness, the unknown, having like really unexpected kind of things happen to you once in a while. It is also the sign of, again, huge risk. So you might be somebody who's inclined to be an entrepreneur. You might be somebody who's inclined to have like a huge business or invest in certain businesses. You might be into stocks and bonds and things like that, into finances. Scorpios is also about inheritances and stuff like that. So it might be something that you experience. It's usually something that every person experiences, but it is ruled by the sign of Scorpio. And so having a North Node in Scorpio, this might be like a prominent thing in your lifetime. Being a North Node in Scorpio, you're all about also exposing truths. Your soul wants you to discover the truths behind things. You might be very inclined to looking into like not very known things, or like covered up stories, or anything that seems like unknown. You're a truth seeker. So if anyone is around you that seems like they're hiding something, you're naturally somebody who wants to discover what that is. This is kind of like a lot of millennials are born with this. Like certain millennials that are, for example, I'm born with this, and we're kind of like the people that are looking at like governments or looking at things like this that are like, hey, this doesn't kind of look right, and I want to know what's really going on. And it's a natural inclination to really be the discoverer of the truth and spill the tea, if you know what I mean, because we do have some tea around here, and I love to spill tea as a Gemini and with my Scorpio North Node. But again, Scorpio is inclined to take big risks because they are the truth seekers. They will do anything to find out the realness, and they love to find it out. And they're really good at also sneaking behind and not being seen. So they're really good at also kind of like hiding their own truths or hiding their own sort of motives. So this can be kind of like a bad thing about the North Node in Scorpio is the soul has a natural tendency to want to keep some sort of like, not really disclose a lot. They're really good at discovering though and uncovering, but might not be good at disclosing. And so good jobs that fit with the Scorpio North Node to kind of fulfill your destiny is anything with big risks, anything like stocks, bonds, looking into even politics, looking into things that need to be uncovered, being a detective, uncovering certain things, taking on new challenges. It is ruled by Mars and by Pluto. So with these planets, you need to uncover certain things and also take risks and take actions onto certain things as well. Also, with using your intuition, anything in the spiritual realm also fits Scorpio North Node people, since it relies on intuition and uncovering the mystical, uncovering the occult, and that kind of stuff. So that is all of that. And so now moving on to the Sagittarius North Node with Gemini South Node. So with your South Node in Gemini, you're a natural thinker. You're also a natural communicator. You love to gain new knowledge. You love to learn new things constantly. You're also very inclined to having a lot of friends, being really inclined to delving into gossip, things like this. Anything that's new and exciting to the mind is a natural Gemini South Node quality. And so your past life, you were probably somebody who dove a lot into discovering new things, learning new things, living your life in a variety of different ways, and also having a lot of friends around you. It does rule the third house, which is the house of communication, the house of speaking, talking. So anything to do with the voice, again, poetry, writing. It can even deal with music or rapping or things like that. So your South Node being in Gemini kind of enlightens those skills and talents, and that's who you were and what your soul mastered in your past life. With your North Node being in Sagittarius, this lifetime you're meant to have a solid philosophy. You're meant to have like a solid thing that you're looking at, and also reach to a place of teaching what you know and spreading what you know. And honestly, experiencing lots of different cultures and traveling quite a bit. This is like people who want to share their knowledge and their information on a very broad scale to a lot of people. Since Sagittarius does rule kind of like travel and going around, it is ruled by Jupiter, which is like the expansion. So this is finally expanding the consciousness, expanding the mind, rather than being like more of the Gemini South Node, which is the small little nitty-gritty things and even like gossip and things like that. Sagittarius is not about gossip. So it's finally time for you to leave behind the petty gossip, stop spilling the tea about people. This is more about getting to a point of major philosophy, huge thinking, expanding the mind in so many different ways, and also teaching this. So naturally, with the North Node in Sagittarius, it's time for you to be a teacher and a widespread lover, to love all and to teach what you know and to preach what you know. So this is somebody who ends up being a teacher or a preacher or a guru of some type where you have people that you are teaching. Your soul naturally wants to spread information and spread what you know. So if your soul is doing this in this lifetime, you are headed towards and fulfilling your destiny, as long as you are working somewhere in this type of field where you get to spread your knowledge and teach others and also travel. This is also the sign of traveling and gaining information in this way, and then also teaching on that broad scale where you do travel to different places and do your teaching, or at least you have like a business that spreads very wide and lots of people can gain from this business on a worldwide kind of scale. This is letting go of casual information and diving deep into very deeper information, deep philosophies and things like that. It can also be a job that deals with politics or deals with news or anything like that, anything to spread information and spread what you know. And so that is all about the Sagittarius North Node. So now moving into the Capricorn North Node with the Cancer South Node. So with your South Node in Cancer, if you are born with this means you come from a lifetime where you made a home life for yourself. You're used to the comforts of home, the comforts of family life, the comforts of children. Honestly, anything to deal with comfort, cuddles, caring, nurturing, love, mothering, things like this. This is the Cancer South Node. And so naturally, you're very good at these things. You're very good at caring for others. You have a very strong intuition, and you're very good at reading people's emotions and seeing what they need, and also providing what others need. And so you're very naturally good at this. You're born with these skills. Your soul has mastered this in its last life. You were probably someone who had a large family, and your focus was on family and home life in your past life. And so naturally, your soul can fall back on this during hard times and loves to, kind of wind up at home and like cuddle in bed while watching Netflix all day is kind of like what your soul will fall back on during hard times, because it's naturally what you're really good at. It's naturally what kind of like fills you back up. It's your mastery area. But with the Capricorn North Node, that can actually be a detriment to your soul's destiny this lifetime, because your destiny this lifetime with Capricorn North Node is to accomplish your goals and to do so consistently. Capricorn is an earth sign. It loves to deal with things very consistently. Even the mundane things, it knows how to get them done. And so your soul wants you to even accomplish the small mundane things and also accomplish huge things. This is like focused on career. So this lifetime, instead of focusing on family life, instead of focusing on other people and also the nurture of yourself, this is finally, you are challenged to pick a career, pick a goal, and head in that direction. This is more career-oriented and gaining money, gaining positions, gaining authority in whatever goal that you have and accomplishing it. So this is time for you to finally be very, very goal-oriented and not in a family sense necessarily for the most part, depending on what house it is in. But again, if you guys want a part 2 video about the houses as well to go more in depth about this North-South Node situation, we can also have a video on that. If you guys like this one, let me know, and I will make that for you guys as well. But for the most part, Capricorn's more career-oriented rather than family-oriented, unless your North Node is in the 4th house, for example. That would change it to being a little bit more family-oriented, but very goal-driven, kind of stuff like that. But nonetheless, with the North Node being in Capricorn, you are somebody who needs to accomplish a lot this lifetime in order to fulfill your destiny. So you can pick basically any goal in the career field, and as long as you're working towards accomplishing and striving to new heights and accomplishing crazy, crazy things, and honestly, like big challenges and overcoming certain obstacles, you are fulfilling your soul's destiny by doing this. And also following kind of like the structure of society and listening to structures, creating structure is all about Capricorn and what Capricorn is all about. And so it's finally time to have less focus on family life and more focus on self and career in that sort of way. And not necessarily in a nurturing way. This is more of like a very goal-focused type of way. So any jobs that would fit you, basically any job, honestly, as long as it's very goal-oriented, but this can be somebody who's an executive, a business owner, somebody who strives to achieve. Anything around achievement. This can also be somebody who goes to school for a while to do something with a high achievement. So that is what your soul's destiny is. All about the North Node in Capricorn. So now moving on to the North Node in Aquarius, which is the South Node in Leo. So with your South Node being in Leo, you might be somebody who was royal in a past life, or somebody who was a ruler. You might have been an emperor in a past life, anything around this, because Leo does deal with royalty and being kind of like the center of attention. So you were somebody who had quite a bit of attention. Eyes were on you in your last life. People were praising you. You were somebody who probably also focused or dealt with children in your past life, or dealt with the creative field, things that were really fun, like activities, movement, things like this, things that kind of like are the center of attention, anything musical, artsy, things like this. You bring in the skills of this. You're probably somebody who has a very good inclination for standing out. You're somebody who naturally has a pull for other people. People naturally like you when your South Node is in Leo, because you're somebody who's mastered the likableness of other people, since you had to gain a lot of recognition in your past life. Whether you were a royal person or anything, you're somebody who became the center of attention. So naturally people have an inclination towards you, since you have natural people skills. And so you were born this lifetime with very creative skills, and people are naturally attracted to you. You're somebody who kind of like sits really high on the pedestal very naturally. But with the North Node being in Aquarius, this is time for you to have a very individualistic kind of approach, and also spread a knowledge and wealth of information to other people. You're probably somebody who's naturally, your soul wants you to learn the new technologies of the world, or discover new technologies, discover new things out there, and then also make a lot of friendships as well, be likable, but in a very stand out type of way, which is also quite similar to Leo, but Aquarius does it in a way that's not really like they're trying to get attention or trying to stand out. Aquarius just naturally stands out on its own because they're very different. So you'll be challenged to discover new ways of thinking and to stand out with maybe even conspiracies. Aquarius is so known for its inclination towards conspiracies, so your soul wants you to question certain things, certain ways of society, and to kind of be a rebel and to change the current concrete ways of society. Since you were a ruler in your past life, or someone who had quite a bit of authority, it's now time to challenge those structures and to become very different, stand out, move into like a new way of thinking, something that's never been done before. Aquarius is all about discovering the things that haven't been done before and standing way out of the ordinary and challenging old belief systems and things like that. So you're naturally going to be a rebel, naturally going to stand out whether you try or not to. Your soul needs you to move in that direction of naturally standing out and being different and going against kind of like the crowd, but in your own way if you naturally feel inclined to do that. That is where your soul is headed this lifetime. And as long as you are standing out and creating these new things, your soul will be fulfilled. This is your destiny, to discover these new things and then also create lots of friendships. It is also the sign of changing up your home or moving around a lot. It is a fixed sign. And so sometimes Aquariuses don't like change very much, but they are a sign that does like to move around and be about and not necessarily stay in one place. So that is your soul's destiny, and you're yearning towards those types of things. So you could honestly work in politics, or you could work in anything where you're discovering and creating new information and breaking down old structures. So as long as your career or life path fits into creating new molds and creating new values and new structures and new systems, it is ruled by Saturn, which is structures and systems, but Aquarius likes to challenge and make it new, since it is also ruled by Uranus, which deals with changing things up, becoming very unexpected. This is why Aquariuses are so unexpected. They stand out so much, is because they do the unexpected. And so this lifetime, you're supposed to do what is completely different, the things that are unexpected. And this is what will fulfill your soul's purpose this lifetime. This is what your destiny is. So as long as you're doing something along the lines of that, you're doing it right. Also with Aquarius, this is discovering new sciences, the exact sciences of things. It also deals with astrology, so you might have a natural inclination to know a bit about astrology if you have your North Node in Aquarius. And this is anything that it deals with science, new technology, things like that. And so that's all for the Aquarius North Node and Leo South Node. So now moving on to the Pisces North Node with Virgo South Node. So if your South Node is in Virgo, your last lifetime, you were probably healing other people. You might have worked in the medical field. You might have done something with organization, cleaning, even being a maid, things like that, getting people in order, helping people in a very material, physical type of way. So anything to deal with helping others or getting people organized, healing other people, again, medical field, anything to deal with helping other people out, managing other people even, is the Virgo South Node. So naturally you're very good at keeping yourself organized. You have a very organized mind. You're naturally very good at discovering like the certain things that certain ways that things tick and how they go about doing their things. You're very good at looking at the material side of everything. Since Virgo is very material, you're very good at also working, getting things done, but doing things in the correct way, seeking the correctness out of everything, seeking truths. It is ruled by Mercury, and this is also the sign of like communication, knowledge, things like that. So you're very naturally very knowledgeable person. You retain knowledge very easily. You're also very good at helping others and being of service to others, since the South Node in Virgo is being of service to others. And with your North Node being in Pisces, your soul, instead of being of service to others, you're now relying on intuition. You're relying on healing people, but in a very non-material way. This is more healing people on a mystical kind of like occult type of way. Usually with the North Node in Pisces, you can be very, your soul wants you and is very inclined and drawn towards the mystical or magics of the world. It's now time to not focus on analysis or details. This is time to focus solely on your intuition and gaining knowledge and wisdom through your intuition, feeling out what is correct, listening to other voices and feeling what's correct, or honestly listening to your own internal voice and having things come up for you. They're honestly very intuitive. You're very naturally probably going to be inclined to developing the abilities of, say, like channeling certain messages. Your soul wants you to finally go towards this and learn these skills. Whereas naturally, you're very good at falling back on looking at the scientific approach of things, looking at the material approach to things. But now this lifetime, you're being challenged and your soul wants you to gain the ability to do this internally, using your intuition and learning how to use that intuition to decipher truths or decipher knowledge and find things out. Also, Pisces is very known for wearing the rose-colored glasses and seeing things through a very good light all the time. But this, with the North Node in Pisces, it's challenging you to listen to your intuition to feel out what's correct, because usually Pisces loves to look at the world in a very beautiful, magical, mystical way. It is ruled by Neptune, which deals with fantasy. So as your soul is learning to use your intuition, you might notice that the challenges that you come across is always seeing things in a fantasy type of way, always seeing things as perfect, always seeing the good in everything else. So these are the challenges you might face in order to listen and trust your intuition, whether it's good or bad, or whether it's truth or fake or false. So your soul is now learning this, and it's also to see people in a very positive light as well. Since Pisces naturally does this, it's to see the good in everything, but also to see the duality of like good and light, and it's the two different fishes of dark and light. And so it's time for you to trust your intuition, start to learn to use that intuition to decipher between them both. Since Pisces does have a natural inclination to see everything as good, it's challenging you and your soul to learn what is good and what is bad naturally by using your intuition rather than solid material facts. So the type of careers and jobs that somebody with a Pisces North Node may fall into are things to deal with spirituality, things that use your intuition, things that help you see like the other side of things. This could also be philosophy as well, but more in a spiritual aspect. Anything that deals with following your intuition. This could even be just falling in love with other people and experiencing like using your intuition with other people, these types of things. So anything that honestly awakens that sort of like spiritual, mystical, other realm type of stuff. This could even be natural mediums would normally have like a North Node in Pisces or even a South Node in Pisces that naturally have very psychic mediumship qualities. Though you can have that having kind of any sign out there. It just depends on your entire astrology, and there's honestly so much that goes into astrology. But people with a North Node in Pisces might be people that more likely fall into these spiritual professions and have that fulfill their destiny. So anything, honestly, that involves using your intuition is going to be something that fulfills your soul's mission in this lifetime. You don't need to be a spiritual person, but anything that kind of uses and awakens the intuition. You don't necessarily need to be spiritual, but in order to fulfill your destiny, you need to be doing something that challenges you to use this intuition. So that is all for the Pisces North Node, and that brings us to the end of this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, don't forget to give it a really big thumbs up for me. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. And again, if you guys want some more information, if you guys want me to do a video based on the actual houses and the North Node and South Node through the different houses as well, we can definitely do that. Let me know by giving this video a huge thumbs up for me, and then I will think about making that part 2 if you guys are actually interested in it. It might be too specific. I know a lot of people, they don't get to know their houses, because in order to know your house system in astrology, you need to know the exact time that you were born in order to have accurate house system through your astrological charts. So yeah, but either way, if you guys want me to make a video on it, I totally will, and I will see you guys in my next video. Love you guys so much. Sending you guys all my love and light. Bye guys.